big story that's breaking at the moment, the very latest on Cyclone Tauktae. It has made a landfall in Gujarat near Verawal, along the coast, along the Saurashtra coast in Verawal. Landfall has been made just a short while ago. This, of course, comes at a time when Ahmedabad airport has been now shut till 5 a.m. The army has been put on standby across Gujarat's coastal areas. Massive evacuation of people along the coastal areas. Remember, 6 people have been killed and 9 injured in Maharashtra as the cyclone continues to make its way to the coastline. Closure of operations at Mumbai airport extended till 10 p.m. Cyclone Tauktae then making a landfall in Gujarat after having wreaked havoc across 4 states. The cyclone has thrown life out of gear in Mumbai through the day today, disrupting both surface and air traffic, uprooting trees in several parts of the city. The situation, though, is even more critical in Gujarat. The cyclone there made a landfall a short while ago. It made the landfall between Porbandar and Mahua near Verawal with a wind speed of 155 to 165 kilometers per hour. Goa and Kerala were also affected over the weekend by the cyclone, but the worst, it seems, is over in those 2 states. The key, therefore, now is Gujarat, where, remember, the cyclone has made a landfall. I'm joined by Gopi Manyar, who's live in Verawal, and Vidya, who's live from Mumbai. Gopi, to you first. वेरावल में जो स्थिति है, ये समझा जा रहा है कि साइक्लोन का लैंडफॉल कुछ ही मिनटों पहले हुआ है पोरबंदर और महुआ के बीच में. वहां बताइए क्या प्रबंध किए गए हैं, आप क्या दृश्य देख रही हैं?
बिल्कुल राजदीप, सबसे पहले तो मैं बता दूं कि जो आईएमडी है उन्होंने ऑफिशियली ये कहा है कि जो लैंडफॉल है वो होना शुरू हो चुका है, यानी जो साइक्लोन का आई है वो कुछ ही देर में यहाँ से गुजर जाएगा और जो केंद्र बिंदु रहेगा वो केंद्र बिंदु रहेगा दीव और वेरावल के बीच से ये होते हुए ये गुजरेगा. तो इस वक्त हम वेरावल में हैं और यहाँ पे तेज हवाएं चल रही है. अगर दीव की बात करें तो दीव में करीब 100 किलोमीटर पर आवर की स्पीड से ये हवाएं चल रही है. तो वेरावल में भी उसी तेजी से यहाँ पे भी हवाएं चल रही है. और मेट डिपार्टमेंट ने ये कहा है कि साइक्लोन जब गुजर जाएगा उसके बाद जो हवाएं चलेगी वो 150 टू 180 किलोमीटर पर आवर की स्पीड से, जो क्योंकि आई एक बार जमीन से टकराने के बाद जो हवाएं चलेगी वो काफी तेज होगी. साथ ही 1 लाख से ज्यादा लोगों को जो इन कोस्टल एरिया में बसे हुए थे उन सबको इवैक्यूएट करके जो यहाँ पे साइक्लोन रिलीफ सेंटर कैंप है वहां पे रखा गया है. लेकिन राजदीप, एक और जहां कोविड है तो दूसरी ओर साइक्लोन की ये मार है, क्योंकि कोविड की वजह से सारे अस्पताल, जो कोस्टल एरिया के अस्पताल है, करीब 1400 जितने अस्पताल है जहां पे कोविड के सेंटर बनाए गए हैं, वो सारे अस्पताल फुल है. वैसे में सबसे बड़ी चुनौती ये होगी अगर, क्योंकि हवाएं तेज चल रही है, बिजली गुल होने की संभावनाएं काफी ज्यादा है, तो वहां पे जो अस्पताल है उनको ये कहा गया है कि उनको जेनसेट बैक रखना है, स्टैंड बाय पे जेनसेट रहना चाहिए. साथ ही आईसीयू ऑन व्हील, जो गुजरात के अलग अलग शहर है, चाहे वो अहमदाबाद हो, वडोदरा हो, जहां पे साइक्लोन का असर कम होगा, वहां से आईसीयू ऑन व्हील को यहाँ पे मंगवाया गया है कि हो सकता है कि अगर कहीं पे भी बिल्डिंग में या कुछ डैमेज हो तो उन पेशेंट्स को तुरंत ही आईसीयू ऑन व्हील के जरिए दूसरे अस्पतालों पे ले जाया जाए. साथ ही ऑक्सीजन जो है वो भी 24 आवर्स का बैकअप पे रखा गया है, ताकि ऐसे हालात पैदा ना हो कि ऑक्सीजन की कमी की वजह से पेशेंट को कहीं दिक्कत हो. ये सारी चीजें, ये सारे प्रिकॉशन लिए गए हैं. लेकिन जिस तरीके से ये हवाएं तेज चल रही है और आज मुंबई में जिस तरीके से कहर बरपाया है, कहीं ना कहीं जो तैयारी है वो अगर सरकार का यही प्रयास है कि जान और माल दोनों का कम से कम नुकसान हो. खुद गुजरात के मुख्यमंत्री विजय रूपानी के साथ प्रधानमंत्री की बातचीत हुई है. प्रधानमंत्री ने आश्वस्त किया है कि जितनी भी मदद की जरूरत रहेगी वो केंद्र सरकार के जरिए की जाएगी. जो आर्मी की 10 से ज्यादा टीम है उसे वेरावल और खास करके सौराष्ट्र का जो इलाका है वहां के लिए डिप्लॉय कर दिया गया है, क्योंकि ये साइक्लोन जिस तरीके से मुंबई में तबाही हुई है उससे ज्यादा तबाही यहाँ पे जब लैंडफॉल करेगा उस वक्त हो सकती है. तो यही सारी चीजों को देखते हुए सारी टीम को, NDRF को, साथ ही SDF को, इन सबको स्टैंड बाय पे रखा गया है.
जो बड़ी बात आप कह रही हैं कि in a way this is a double battle. There's the battle against COVID and it's taking place. Remember, in Gujarat, people are in hospitals at the moment. Power and electricity is a major concern in several parts. We've already seen power in Goa going off for 24 hours in some parts when the cyclonic wind struck Goa yesterday. So clearly that is a major concern, and that's been a major concern in Mumbai as well, we are told, Vidya, because the Jumbo Center, where a large number of COVID patients come, where vaccination programs take place, we are told has had to be disbanded today because of the cyclonic wind. So clearly there are two fronts on which the administrators are having to fight. You're having to fight the cyclonic rains and winds. You're also having to try and protect and ensure that ICU patients, in particular in hospitals, are protected, Vidya.
Well, certainly, Rajdeep. In fact, we have to give credit to the BMC and the local authorities who have been fighting this dual battle since the last couple of days. They were prepared for it. And that's the reason probably we did not see a single death in Mumbai. We did not see any major untoward incident really happening in the city, in spite of the many number of tree falls and buildings being damaged that we have seen. So certainly there is a credit that needs to be due, but certainly, remember, Rajdeep, that the fact that the vaccination was suspended because the administration did not want people moving out of their homes, and which is the reason why the vaccination was supposed to renew tomorrow. But in spite of the fact that 2 days there's been no vaccination, in spite of that, tomorrow there will be a few centers that will be closed because of lack of vaccination again. And secondly, of course, the COVID centers that have been damaged in this entire cyclone, they will take approximately 10 days, Rajdeep, 10 days, which are extremely crucial, because remember, all these people had to be shifted to hospitals. And as the number of cases go up, these jumbo sets, which would have actually been of much help to the administration, they will not be available for the next 10 days. So certainly it is a huge battle ahead that the administration will really have to take into consideration while fighting COVID on one hand and seeing to it that the city gets back to normalcy post-cyclone.
Right. Well, clearly the cyclone and COVID remain twin challenges. Vidya and Gopi say stay safe. Gopi, you particularly, because you are at the eye of the cyclone. We'll come back to you for more updates. I want to go now to SN Pradhan, DG NDRF, and Roxy Mathew Koll, climate scientist at the Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology in Pune. Appreciate both of you joining us. Mr. Pradhan, NDRF teams have spread right across the coastline. Can you give us a sense of the kind of preparation, especially on the Gujarat coast as we speak, Mr. Pradhan?
Well, as we speak, Rajdeep, 50 odd teams are spread across on the ground in those about 14 impact districts of Gujarat. Gujarat continues to be the impact state, actually, because the storm built up right from Lakshadweep onwards and impacted the coastal areas of Karnataka, Maharashtra, of course. But then the major impact is due to the landfall in middle of the bulge of southern Gujarat. And about 14 districts are going to be affected or are being impacted as we speak. That's why the forces are lined up along the coast in those districts and in those impact areas. And most of the last 2 days or 2.5 days, they have been involved in evacuation of people who are in the line of harm's way. So more than 2 lakh people have been evacuated, and I think the local administration of the districts have to be complimented on the task achieved. It remains to be seen whether that has been complete and optimal. There sometimes are stragglers who just would not leave their houses, and then the unfortunate incidents do happen. But I hope that those will be few and far between or none at all. And I think the due diligence has been done. But then the COVID challenge was also there. Yeah.
That's exactly it. That this time you've had the twin challenge. You've got to evacuate people along the coastline from their homes, but there are also hospitals in some of those areas, local hospitals where ICU patients were being treated for COVID. In that sense, has this been an even more difficult challenge for the NDRF?
Vastly more difficult, I must say. It is, very, very different kind of a challenge. The only silver lining I keep on saying through the day is that probably we had a trial run last year when in the time of Amphan and in time of Burevi in the south, in the time of Nisarg, which was again in the Arabian Sea. We had almost like a trial run because COVID had started, remember, by then. And we had to deal with these cyclones during the COVID times. And if you speak of NDRF in particular, NDRF personnel were infected. But I think due to the rigor and the regimen of discipline and the protocols that we followed for COVID, we didn't have casualties. And that has stood us in good stead. And I think this time we have doubled down on the preparations. We have made special suits. And we have ensured that none of the troopers, none of the NDRF personnel is without the dual dose of vaccination. So all that has been done. And on the other side, on the side of the people whom we are serving, the citizens, yes, evacuating the citizens and the patients from COVID hospitals and jumbo centers was a tricky situation. But I must compliment the central and the state government because both of them, over the last 2 days, the Prime Minister held a meeting, the Home Minister held a meeting, the Cabinet Secretary held a meeting, and there was very clear communication lines on the strategy that has to be adopted. Yesterday, Mr. Thackeray, the Chief Minister of Maharashtra, was very clear when he spoke to the Union Home Minister, saying that we will not take a chance and we will evacuate the jumbo centers and the temporary centers of COVID treatment and take them to safer places.
Right.
So that was a no-brainer, I think, and because of this, I think a lot of other kind of trouble has been avoided. And now it remains to be seen how much on the other side of the storm we are able to protect.
I think you make a good point that in a way you all are trained now by having to deal with a series of cyclones over the last couple of years. In fact, Roxy Koll, as a meteorologist, we are seeing this. Last year this time, we had Cyclone Amphan on the eastern coast, disturbances in the Bay of Bengal, and this time it's the western part of the country being hit. Gujarat in particular has been vulnerable in the past to cyclones. Give us a sense of the trajectory of this cyclone and how intense you see it as it makes a landfall.
Thanks, Rajdeep, for calling me to this important discussion on cyclones hitting the Indian coast. I should start with a positive note, saying that I was listening to your correspondent Vidya saying that there were almost no deaths over some of these regions in Mumbai, despite having such an extremely severe cyclone. Now, one stat I would like to say is that this is one of the extremely severe cyclone that we have ever seen so close to Mumbai since 1891. That is for the last 130 years. So it's such a severe cyclone and has come so close to Mumbai, but we are able to avoid so many deaths, and that is because the forecasts have improved over time. In fact, we got a signal about this system developing maybe almost a week back. And now we see that the NDRF and the local administration has worked together. But there are more challenges coming up. And like you rightly said, Arabian Sea is becoming a hotbed. And one of the reasons is that because of ocean warming. Cyclones draw their energy from the warm waters below. And we are seeing that compared to Bay of Bengal, which has been an active region, the Arabian Sea is warming much more rapidly than any other basins across the tropics. So that results in the number of cyclones increasing and the intensity of this cyclone increasing. And not only that, there is another factor here, important factor, challenging factor, and that is that these cyclones are intensifying rapidly. So from a weak cyclone to an extremely severe cyclone, that is around from 100 km per hour to 220 km per hour. That is happening in less than 24 hours. So that is a challenge we have to work on. Both the forecasts have to improve to capture that, and also on ground we may have to work on that.
So just very quickly, as the cyclone now makes a landfall somewhere around the Diu coast, while there's been a large-scale evacuation along, do you fear, Mr. Koll, that this is the kind of intense cyclone that can cause damage And because some of these are areas that are habitated by fisher folk, fisher communities along the coastline in Veraval, in Diu. Do you fear the worst, or do you believe that we have, as the NDRF chief suggested now, practiced the art of evacuation almost to a fine art?
Well, I think the impact could be extremely severe, owing to the fact that this is a very severe cyclone, and even just before landfall, it is maintaining that status of severity. And IMT forecast and INCOI's forecast, they show that the waves could be strong from 3 meters to 5 meters. So that means these strong winds will push more water inland. And along with that, so this is like a triple impact. So you have a cyclone, which is bringing in a heavy rainfall and also strong winds. And on the background, the sea level is also rising. So all this put together, which will mean prolonged floods along the coastal region. So that is something we have to work on. We cannot keep on evacuating every time.
Right.
We cannot relocate buildings, residential areas, trains and buses and everything, right? So we need to do a risk assessment and have proper policies so that we have a resilient coastal region. We can work on our mangroves, these Mumbai, Goa, all these regions have mangroves. So that is a natural defense that we can work on.
Right. Well, as I said, the landfall has only just been made a few minutes ago. We pray that the damage is minimal, and we pray for the lives and indeed the livelihoods of the people along the coastline. Roxy Koll and of course Mr. Pradhan, thank you so much for joining us. You have a long night ahead, Mr. Pradhan, and I wish you and your team very well. And once again, our thanks and gratitude as a nation to the NDRF, which seems to have mastered the art of coming in such situations and providing relief. So thank you very much for that. Let's, in a way, take off from what Roxy Koll suggested about the kind of damage the cyclone is doing along the coastline. Goa got a taste of it. Never before has Goa seen the kind of cyclonic winds it saw yesterday. Trees across North Goa in particular were destroyed in several parts. Our correspondent Saurabh Bakhtania has this ground report.
Gusty winds, torrential rains, uprooted trees. Cyclone Tauktae has left a trail of destruction in Goa. The incessant rainfall and fast-blowing winds resulted in power outage in 60% of the state. The authorities claim it may take another 3 to 4 days to restore electricity supply fully in many places, as several electric poles have been uprooted. Over 200 houses suffered major damage due to the cyclonic winds.
Behind me in the visuals, if you can see, the huge tree over here has directly fallen on this car which was parked over here. Thankfully, no one is injured in this particular incident, but you can see how such huge trees have fallen down at so many places in Goa.
Many parts of Goa were cut off as highways were blocked at several points. The disaster management teams later cleared the routes.
We are right now present in Madgaon area. This is the Monte Hill, and the NDRF team is in full action over here. And let me tell you, this is the huge tree. In fact, there are several huge trees we have fallen down over here. This is the Monte Hill. And why this road is important? Because through this road, there is a TB hospital over there. And therefore, to clear this road is very important.
The worst, however, is over for Goa. Cyclone Tauktae makes landfall in Gujarat, where authorities are on full alert. With Saurabh Bakhtania in Goa, Bureau Report, India Today.